Hey everyone, Rob from Southgate Media Group here. Before we get started with this podcast, we have a quick message. If this is your first time checking out the show, we love that you found us and we really hope you enjoy it. What we have to say is for the subscribers. If you enjoy our shows, would you please donate to help keep these going? We don't want to have to put traditional ads on these shows, but this does cost money. So we really do rely heavily on donations. To make a donation to the show, please go to our website, www.southgatemediagroup.com. Go to the page for the show, and in the upper right-hand corner is a donate button. It takes you right to PayPal, and you can donate whatever amount you want. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. And now, on with the show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Biters, the podcast of The Walking Dead and all things zombie. I am one of your hosts, Jeff Marsick, and as always, accompanying me is
Kirk Manley. At least it was when I sat down.
For everybody, we're sorry that we're recording on a Tuesday night. We're sorry this is late. We actually started recording last night. We got 20 minutes into the episode when my computer died. It didn't die so much as that I run in 6-year-old Mac, which is basically fossilized at 6 years. So when you
it's getting so the fossilization starts at around year 2.
Seriously, it's awful. I go into Apple Store today being like, what's wrong with my baby? And they basically said, well, let's run the serial number because it might be, what was the word they used for it? It wasn't archaic, but it was like relic or ancient, or it was like one of those synonyms. And basically they said, yeah, we just don't support it anymore. And they said,
when you type, does it do hieroglyphics?
It does. Yes. So anyway, we are recording again tonight. We're basically going to try to reproduce the magic that we had last night.
Oh, it was a perfect show.
Oh, it was awesome. We were like 20
it's
minutes
definitely
into
going to
it.
be our best. I mean, maybe like what's the awards for podcasts? Because I think that was going to do it, man.
Yeah, that was it. We were on. So it's all downhill from here.
Yeah.
So anyway, but hopefully this week go by without a hitch tonight. That being said, welcome to listening to us. If you're new to the show and if you're one of our 7 fans, I think we're up to 7 now. Welcome back. Well, hold on a second. We have somebody from England. And didn't we just pick up somebody, or as far as we know, we picked up somebody from Germany?
I think Susan actually was here last season and just started posting, and she's from Germany. So that's pretty cool. That's very cool. We're international, baby.
That's awesome.
Rock the international podcasts.
Yes, all 2 people from overseas. Anyway,
right, so how about some numbers, man?
All right, so the numbers. I don't know if I gave numbers last week or if I did. Whatever, I'll give them again.
No, I don't think you did because we were running. We recorded early, really quickly on Monday.
That's right. That was one of the rare occasions we recorded quickly. Just to backtrack, 2 weeks ago, we Walking Dead did 13.3 million.
Yeah, we didn't do 13. We didn't do 13 million. We were lucky we did 13.
Yes. So The Walking Dead did 13.38 million. Last week, so 2 weeks ago, of course, was Four Walls and a Roof. Last week was Slabtown, did 14.5 million viewers. And then last night, well, not last night, 2 nights ago, they did 13.5 million viewers. The interesting thing about this is that this is episode 5, right, of Walking Dead.
Yep.
For this season, The Walking Dead has beaten the NFL 3 out of 5 of those weeks. And I mean, if you watch the Sunday night game and with the Bears losing, basically out of the game by halftime by 6 touchdowns, you kind of understand why
So you're not ready to give all the credit to The Walking Dead. You think there was some
I think the Packers helped the cause, but
okay. Maybe the Packers are Walking Dead fans.
maybe. But I mean that's pretty incredible. You think that 13 million viewers and 14 and a half.
Well, the thing
we had
that
to bump
stood out
up
to me-
because people probably checking in to see what the hell's happened to Beth, because clearly viewers care more about Beth than Maggie does. So,
Dum-bum.
but shh, I'm here all week, folks. So, I mean, those are
Well, the other thing that's
incredible numbers.
impressive is, and you brought this up when we recorded the first time, was that their average is now around 12 or 13. Oh, that is a badass mug. That's like the 60s Iron Man, right?
Yeah,
All right. That's sweet.
I don't mess around.
Anyway, the average, I think you said, was now around 12 or 13. I remember when 12 was the premiere numbers and was, like the season finale or season premiere number and was like the dream about number. Now that's like their average episode number, which is fantastic. So it just keeps on gaining ground, man.
Yeah, and we've got 3 episodes left, basically the rest of the month of November, and then we're off until February. So it'll be interesting to see those numbers continue.
It's 8 and 8, right?
Yes.
8 and 8, right. I think we talked last time about what we thought the finale would be, and I think we both thought that the finale would most likely be them, hitting Washington or whatever. Do you still feel that way now?
Oh no, I think we were way off. Given the events of this episode, yeah, we were way off.
I think it's going to be taken the hospital. I think that's going to be the mid-season finale, and then the decision to head towards Washington anyway. Even though they know now, well, we'll get it to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
All right. Anyway, we got some letters we got to get to from people's comments from previous episodes.
Yeah, it's people who had written in. It's not that we were ignoring you. We just Alzheimer's kicks in, and you know how it is.
Well, we try to respond in whether they're posted to Facebook. We try to respond to them there, or sometimes we get emails. We try to respond to those, but then we also try to read them on the show when we can. So we've got. Let's see. We'll start off here with Jennifer Mooney wrote us to the Biters Podcast at Gmail. Thank you, Jennifer, for the nice email. She says, first, I have to say, this is about Slabtown, that I love Beth. I love Beth and Daryl. She's over 18, so everyone should just get over her age. I think people are too hard on her. Jennifer says she thinks that Carol was one of the weakest women ever on the show. And if she remembers correctly, it was implied that she suspected her husband might have even been molesting her daughter. So, you can't be weaker as a human being than letting that happen to your kids. So, in her opinion. So, Beth would never let anyone hurt Judith, and she's damn near Judith's mom. I thought that was a great point because it's true. She's about as close as, or it was up until she disappeared. Everybody has a turning point in the show when they stop being naive and become someone you don't want to mess with. Seeing your father's head cut off, your mother and brother killed, suspecting a child you've raised is probably dead, all those things will change anyone. So I completely believe that Beth has a will to survive and will prove to all the Beth haters to be a badass.
Wow.
Jennifer is a serious Beth fan.
Well, the thing is with Beth fans is there doesn't seem to be middle ground. You're either all in or you're all out. There's no
yeah. You know what I think that's about. I think that's because of Daryl.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I think it is. I think it's because Daryl is so popular with the ladies, and then the lady fans are divided on whether he should be with the young teeny Barbara type girl, or whether he should be with the more adult, mature Carol woman. You know what I mean? And if you fall in that camp, then you're going to hate Beth. If you fall in the Beth camp, you're going to hate Carol. Right. So, well, not hate Carol, but you're going to feel really strong about defending Beth.
Well, before you go on there, and we've talked about this a bunch of times on the show, and we've talked about it off the podcast as well. Is where, I mean, Beth looks young, and she's not. I mean, she's of age, right? And I mean, we're the zombie apocalypse, this apocalyptic society. We've talked about how she's not 14. I mean, that's still, kind of verboten. So she's young, but she's 18. We'll call her 18, right? Even though she's older than that. But you know, there are new rules get written in this right? You know, so I get the whole my personal not liking of Beth isn't so much that yeah, okay, I guess it does seem a little creepy that it's, you know, on the outside that it's Daryl and her and she seems young, but you got to realize the context, the background, the backdrop against which this relationship is, which is, you know, it's not all that. I don't know if that made any sense. Just keep going.
You're rambling, dude. You are seriously
whatever.
rambling. No, I understand what you're saying. I think the other issue is that there isn't anyone else in her age group. She's really too old to be linked with Carl.
Right.
And she's pretty young to be linked with Daryl. So it's you know, she was in a tough. I think that's changing though. I mean, whoa, nice crack in the voice there. I think that's changing though. I think that,
look who hit puberty.
Yes. I'm still waiting for that to happen. And you know, when the show started, she was definitely teenage, you know, 17, right. 18 types age. But she's definitely, I mean, in that episode, it becomes clear. I mean, it's been, you know, 3, 4 years, 5 years now, right? 4 years. She's definitely in her 20s now. To the back to Jennifer's letter here, to the comments you made about the electricity, batteries are probably hooked up to the machine that Dawn is riding like a bike. She's probably charging batteries. I thought that was a pretty insightful observation. I hadn't thought of that, but they did focus on that, and they probably did for that very reason. Also, anyone familiar with the Metro Atlanta knows 45 minutes to an hour in either direction with no traffic will get you pretty far. Atlanta has country on all sides. I think she was responding to the fact that we've expressed here that it just seems like everything's happening within like a 3-4 mile radius of each other.
Right.
I think Dawn already knew the patient at the end was a doctor. So I think when Dr. Edwards is explaining to Beth about killing the other doctor, that he feared they would get rid of him if he lived. Yeah, I think we're pretty much, we agree with you on that, Jennifer. You asked why didn't Beth want to leave the hospital right away? Yes, she would be weary, but not try to leave as soon as she wakes. That wouldn't make any sense. She was in a hospital. That would be could be a safety net. To run onto the world outside by herself with no weapons would be the dumbest move anyone could make. I don't know. There's a lot of dumb moves you can make in the zombie apocalypse. That's definitely one of them, but I don't know if it's the dumbest. Last comment about the wire amputation. That is a common way to amputate, so that actually is pretty clever writing and directing. Love the show. Can't stand the Beth haters. All right, Jennifer Mooney, thank you so much for your letter. All right.
I've got one from superfan Kathy Carey, who this is hers from October 27th, where she was talking about 4 walls and a roof. And I'm going to kind of PG her language a little bit. She says, "Holy crap." She used crap, but read between the lines. "I was not expecting that one. Pretty people taste better. Ew." Killing off Gareth in the 3rd episode, awesome. I thought it was a great episode altogether. So here's my rundown. She gave it 4.75 headshots. Kath, love the fact you take it out to 2 decimal places. That's great. Character of the week, she went with Sasha and Bob. You know, she kind of did a broad stroke there, but amazing work by both actors, she says, which I think we both agreed with. The good, the bad, and the ugly. The good was the grossness of it all. The bad was no more Gareth, which I completely agree with. I like having the baddies in the episode, she says. The ugly was a bad ugly. How in the hell did Tyrese knife Bob in the head with such ease?
I don't know. I think that the temple is a pretty soft area of the head. So, I mean, if it's a sharp knife, I think that there's a opening there. It's going to go right into your brain. But I am not a doctor. I often need a doctor, but I am not a doctor. I often go to the doctor, but I'm not a doctor.
Kill of the week was Rick and the red-handled knife gutting Gareth, of course.
Woo-hoo! I agree.
By the way, did you notice that Judith was wearing mismatched Sakis? Really stupid observation, but a girl should still match, she says. Okay, so my point to this is that, Kath, I have an 8-year-old daughter who I don't think she's been wearing matched socks since she was, I don't know, 2. I blame her aunt for this because her aunt has this thing for mismatched socks, so my daughter picked it up. And my son, who's 3 years younger, who wants to be just like his big sister, well, he wears mismatched socks too. So...
I think you're just blaming them. I think you do the laundry and you can't get the fucking socks mixed together. You know what I mean? That's what I think it is. That's what I'm guessing.
Hey, when the dryer monster eats a sock, we don't worry in this house because whatever.
That's right.
So, and then Kath finishes up. So that is all. Love you guys and your take on it all. Thanks for filling my ear holes with the sweet, sweet podcast that I love so much. Which just never sounds good, no matter how many times you say that, Kath. But thank you very much for writing in. We love hearing from you as always, and awesome.
So Susan Ugly wrote, "Hey, biters, I'm having a bit of a problem catching up with my podcast, so please excuse this very late response to your recent Slab Town upload. I did not think that this episode was really that bad. However, you are absolutely correct that we have seen by far better ones this season. For me, the episode did have its edge of the seat moments, and I'm very sure would it have been any of the main characters, Carl, Michonne, Carol, or Daryl, that the Walking Dead fan base would have screamed, 'Best episode ever!' But it had Beth trapped in the hospital. I think that's probably a fair complaint. If that had been Michonne, I think people wouldn't have felt as mixed about it. It would have been considered a good episode. Do you think that or not?
I agree with that. Yeah, I think that's a fair.
Yeah, I think the difference is Michonne would have lasted maybe 30 seconds there. The doctor would have had his head chopped off. Dawn would have had her head chopped off.
Right.
She would have led a revolution, and that hospital would now be under Rick's domain.
Gorman would have a lollipop out of every orifice.
I've always been fine with the character of Beth. I certainly prefer her over her sister. Oh, damn.
Wow.
I like Maggie. Let's see. If Beth is 16 or 17-year-old teenager, I think we've established she's probably older than that at this point, and actually quite alone in this cruel world. Wouldn't we all find it rather boring if the show consisted of half god badass characters only competing in who performed the finest zombie kill of the week? That's a good point. That would be great for 2 or 3 episodes, but then what? I think Walking Dead also needs weak characters for the overall picture, and I bet you in a real zombie world you'd also find your token meekling. This is part of nature. Emily Kinney is not doing a bad job impersonating a teenager in the zombie apocalypse. The suicide attempt of season 2 was very plausible, and also her temper changes and slightly disoriented behavior totally reflect how teenage daughters battle life in general. Give Beth a chance, please. Well, we got like a serious Beth. We got Beth listeners, man. We got
Seriously.
Beth in your podcast, Susan writes, you were not sure what the episode's title referred to, and I think we went over this. She points out the same thing about Slabtown having been a red light district in downtown Atlanta during pre-Civil War times. She makes an interesting comment here, though. The fact that Officer Gorman's comment that Beth should have belonged to him hints a bit at a place where females are nothing but merchandise, because Slabtown was a red light district.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of an interesting tie-in. Anyway, before I write a novel, let me just tell you how happy I am to have you two back on my iPad. I got a bit worried over the summer. Keep on doing the good work. Looking forward to your next podcast. Greetings from Germany. So thank you, Susan, very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, we kind of dropped the ball this summer. Our apologies on that. We will try to do better this break.
Right, someone wrote in. Was it Leslie Cox wrote in? Somebody wrote in saying that during the hiatus we should binge watch Hemlock Grove and talk about that.
Yeah, it was either Laura. I think it may have been Laura. Yeah.
So
not positive though. Our apologies if we didn't get that wrong. But yeah, that sounds good. It sounds pretty wild. That's on Netflix too. So.
Yep.
All right, that's it. We'll do a couple more letters, but they're concerning self-help. We'll touch those at the back half. Let's go next to.
You had some tweets.
Yeah, we've been live tweeting this season as we usually do, and there's been some good ones. So this is I'm gonna get one of those jingles for the different sections we should have. You know what I mean? Like something that designates the different sections of the podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So a live tweets thing, Anyway, at Sassy Shane Walsh said, "You mean to tell me walkers melt in water? Forget your guns. Super soakers are for everyone." I thought that was cute. At Rosita _TWD, we're still like 2 blocks away from the church, right? Just checking. So Rosita thinks like we do. The things are kind of happening all right next to each other here. At Renee 652003, that was a walker slip and slide.
Ew.
At the Walking Humor writes, plot twist: Eugene wasn't spraying the hose; he was spraying his backed up blue balls. That would pertain to the self-help title,
nasty.
I guess. At Dalton Ross writes, solving the zombie plague is a long shot. We need to focus on smaller victories, like getting Tara to stop with the awkward fist bumping.
Yeah, what is with that?
Every episode. I think it's been every episode.
Yeah, you ever see the movie Not Another Teen Movie? It's absolutely hysterical, and it riffs on basically every teen movie that's been made.
Right.
Just make fun of it. And there's one character. He's the guy who claps at inappropriate times. So every time throughout the movie, there's like something happens, and then all of a sudden this guy will stand up and he'll start clapping and like look around, and nobody's clapping with him, and he sits down awkwardly. And that's what Tara always reminds me of, the inappropriate like clapping guy.
And then lastly, at Abraham _Army TWD did, aw shit, not again. Damn, bro. Driving it like it's stolen doesn't always work, I guess. And, cars and The Walking Dead, man, they just don't mix.
No, not at all.
No, not at all. All right, self-help. What do you think it meant?
So my take, and you really annoyed me because last week, ever since you mentioned that...
Dude, I always annoy you.
Well, there's that too.
That's like my job.
But as I'm watching this episode, I'm thinking, Kirk's going to want to... Kirk, you put in my head, what does self-help mean? How do they get to that? And so for me, my take on self-help was I took it in the literal sense, in that it is, given this new paradigm of society, what are you willing, what is each character willing to do to help themselves survive this new paradigm, survive in society right now? What are you? So we saw it with Eugene this week, how basically he's willing to lie and deceive others because he knows that if he paints himself to be something that he's not, something bigger, well, they're just going to, taken on his own appearance and his own disposition, personality, he's going to be left on the wayside. He's got nothing to offer. No one's going to save him. No one's going to keep him alive. But if he comes out and says, hey, I know how to solve this and I've got a mission, and he creates this false illusion of who he is, well, he's helping himself survive. So it's, for me, it was, what lengths are you willing to go to? And we've seen this throughout the season, and multiple seasons. It's, we back up to Slabtown. We saw that with Officer Dawn Lerner, where self-help. What are you willing to do? What are you willing to compromise in order to help survive this apocalypse? This the way society is now. You know what? If it means that I bring a pretty girl in and I give her to my officers as a morale present, they're going to keep putting out, and they're going to help me survive. So that's how I took it. What are you willing to do to help yourself survive?
Yeah, I think it was kind of a general. I think it definitely touches on that. I think it also touches on the second part of that, which is that we often do things to survive, like you're saying, in an extreme situation that end up hurting us. Mm-hmm. So, we think we're self-helping ourselves by drinking to numb ourselves of the pain of something going on in our life, but becoming an alcoholic is part of what's causing the problems in our life. Mm-hmm. So self-help is, realizing that and then getting help for that, so that you're not continuing to self-medicate and avoiding dealing with the problems. And I think we saw a lot of that too in this episode with Eugene's continuing lying, and the fact that it's resulted in so many people getting hurt, and his guilt about that, I think. And then also Abraham's unwillingness but his avoidance of dealing with the emotion of the loss of his family, and never really, as we see from the flashbacks, never really dealing with that in any way.
Right.
I mean, it went from finding out about it to trying to kill himself to getting stopped and then boom, boom, being on this mission. So to him, this mission is like alcohol, for an alcoholic. And, but that, that won't keep it down forever. And as we see, and I'm sure we'll talk about more, that just keeps coming back. So yeah, interesting title. And I thought it tied to the episode really well.
Well, I was thinking about, to kind of piggyback on that, I was thinking about trying to compare Walking Dead to the superhero shows that are on right now. The Flash, Gotham, which isn't necessarily a superhero show, but Arrow,
Shield.
Walking Dead, Shield. Walking Dead is not even, I shouldn't insult it by saying holding its own. It's destroying them. But the thing is that, like what you said with self-help, there are consequences. And one of the things I always like about comics and books, things that, especially with superheroes, is I like the stories where they deal with ramifications, they deal with consequences. The Flash runs around the planet at the speed of light. Hey, that's awesome. That's really cool. But there has to be a consequence, right? He's affecting global warming. You can't just because Superman can fly really fast or leap tall buildings in a single bound, there has to be a repercussion. He can't just get away with that. That's too easy. And then a Walking Dead, like you said, every action that you have has a consequence. Even if you think that you're along, this is exactly the thing that is perfect, and this is what we should be doing. Someone's going to get hurt. Some ramification happens, and I think that's one of the things that makes the show so compelling and so gripping every week.
Absolutely. What'd you give it for headshots?
So this week, I think last week I gave Slabtown, what did I say, 2.34. I'm going to up it a little bit this week. I'm going to go with 2. Last night when we...
You don't believe in rounding, huh?
No, rounding, that's for suckers. I'm going to go with a 2.56.
Let me write that down.
Yes. How about you?
I think last week I gave like 3.5. I think I'm going to give 3 here.
Okay.
I did not like this episode as much as I wanted to, although I like it more as the more I've thought about it, the further I get away from it and think about it, and hear other people's analysis of it. But overall, I didn't think it was as strong as any of the 4 before it.
It's funny, before coming into this podcast, I'm thinking about the comments I want to make and the things I want to talk about, and I seem to have, again, like last week, I've got more in the bad column than the good column, but yet I like this episode more, and I think it was just maybe, even though there are faults that I had with the characters and the situations, I think I just like the production better.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt that this season is far and away the best season in terms of the writing. And even the stories that aren't as compelling are still great stories and still fun to watch and enjoyable and rich with character development. There's no yawning moments. There's no like rolling my eyes moments. There's none of that, like the dreaded season 2.
Right.
But so yeah, I think I can see why that's happening. There might still be some things that are able to pick at, but overall, it still continues to be really good this season.
All right. So what were your goods?
Some of the lines, man. I guess I enjoyed getting a little humor. There isn't much humor ever in The Walking Dead, and like when Abraham's talking about the goat rodeo.
Yep.
that cracked me up. There was a line he said when he says to Glenn, I think it was after the car crash. And some of the stuff, I mean, it's like, in one respect, it's funny. And in the other respect, it makes him a little cartoony and is part of the problem with Abraham, but this is the way he talks. But he says to Glenn, I took a pretty hard shot in the sack back there.
Yeah.
I just thought that was great. And then my favorite of all of his speeches was this one here. You got it queued up?
There's no damned corner on this damned earth that has not been dicked hard beyond all damned recognition.
Abraham?
What?
That feeds the radiator. The intake for the engine is actually on the roof.
Yeah, someone needs to do a T-shirt of Abraham Fordisms. That would be awesome.
I would want that one. There is not one part of this world that hasn't been dicked hard. Oh man, that was great. Maggie had a good one too. When they were saying something about rubbing dirt in a wound or something, right after the crash or something, and she looks at Glenn and goes, "I'm not rubbing dirt in anything."
That's right. Yeah.
So that was good.
No, you bring up a good point. He's got a lot of funny lines, and he says them so earnestly. Like they're just, you could just tell they're just a part of his personality. But they do really render him such a cartoony character.
Sometimes they do.
He's Yosemite Sam minus the hat. I mean,
another good for me was, and not to be creepy, but it was good to see people having sex for a change. I mean, it's like, right? I mean, come on. It's the zombie apocalypse. Could be the end of the world. You got a bunch of people together of mixed genders. There's going to be a lot of fornicating going on. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And we barely ever get any. I mean, I think it was Maggie and Glenn like 2 seasons ago was the last time we saw anybody being romantic like that. So that was, I thought that was good. I thought that we finally got the character development that we've been craving for Team Abraham. And though we got mostly this was an Abraham and Eugene episode. For me, there was just as much, if not more, Rosita development. I mean, that poor actress hasn't had like 3 lines since she started the show.
Oh yeah, she's finally broken out of the T-Dog mode.
And she's got a very complicated character. And she's really riding an edge with Abraham. I mean, she kind of keeps him on track. She keeps him calm, but at the same time, she obviously has feelings for him that he doesn't have to the degree that she does. So she kind of knows, she's kind of putting up with being treated a little bit like, second class to her, So I thought she did a really great job. And I was glad to get a lot more background on her along with Eugene and Abraham. I love some of the prepper stuff. The fact that, I like when they do this, like when they had Rick showing Carl and Michonne how to hunt, and when they're getting creative about survival, because these are people who've been on the road like this for a while now. They would have creative ways to survive, and the fact that they take the book binding apart in order to get the string to do his sutures for his hand was so cool. The coat hangers that they were using for to cook on in the garbage can, just the stuff like that was just. I just thought it was a nice touch. The toilet water, obviously, I mean, you got to drink, man. You don't drink, you're toast. So that was cool. I liked too how there was some of it. I've heard some people complain that some of the metaphors that were in the show were heavy-handed, like the fact that he has this wounded hand that he keeps opening up, and that it's this nagging issue, and that's kind of like a physical manifestation of, or metaphor for the wound of the emotional wound that he keeps opening up. And some people thought that was heavy-handed. I enjoy that. I like that kind of symbolism in the show. But there was another one too. His kind of like blind, irrational belief that standing still or stopping, even just for a little while, is going to allow bad shit to happen. That's like this paranoia of him that he's been expressing since the beginning, since the first time we met him.
Right.
And now it's getting them into trouble.
Right.
You know what I mean? And, I think that was a great example of, to use again, the alcoholic, reference or example is that, this guy's habit or what he's doing in order to prevent himself from continuing to think about what happened to his family is causing people to be put in jeopardy now. So I thought that was cool. I loved Maggie's mullet discussion with Eugene, which was after all the other mullet discussion. I thought that her, talking to him about the Samson metaphor, and that it wasn't as Eugene's source of power, but it was because Samson had once asked people the riddle that he knew the answer to. It was almost as if Maggie sensed that this guy, there was something to this guy that was not being
Right.
completely honest.
Right.
And I like that because we're all sitting here listening to this guy going, how are they believing this bullshit? You know what I
Right.
mean? So I like that. I thought Glenn was good in this episode. I think that I liked that he stood up to Abraham a couple times. And, he would get pummeled by him, but he stood up to him. But yet he supported him. He didn't try to undermine him. He was just trying to steer him to, into logical decisions. I thought he did a good job with that. I loved how Eugene listed all the people who had died to keep him alive.
Yeah.
That was just such a great great way in writing and character to portray how this guy felt, or all of his guilt about all of that, which was what was boiling this decision to the surface of him, letting them know that he's not a scientist. So yeah, those were my goods. What about you?
So my good, I have a couple that coincide with yours. Rosita, I love seeing her finally have a voice, literally, and have some character. That was cool, and it was something that you brought up about how she clearly has a thing for Abraham. I made a note as when they were on the bus and she was playing with Abraham's hair, and just the glower on Eugene's face. He was just,
Yeah.
He was just total serial killer look on his face.
No spoilers from the comic.
No, no.
Well, no, but in other words, Eugene's watching that as he's he watched them later when they're making love, and there's a whole thing about him obsessing about them.
Oh,
and I
well,
think
don't spoil it. So, but the thing that you brought up about how Abraham doesn't quite reciprocate the feelings is evident with one line, when he says to Glenn, "I need some ass first."
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
And it's one of those comments where, and I've seen it around the Twitterverse and the internet about people saying that, I'm of two minds of that line. One is that, yeah, he clearly just thinks of Rosita as just a piece of ass, a cool girl that he can get a little action off of. But at the same time, it's also, how guys are, guy talk amongst guys, and I don't think Abraham really knew who he was talking to, but it's still, assuming that, guys to guy is just kind of a guy thing to say. But still, I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about how I think it's because she gained so much in my eyes this episode, especially at the end when Abraham is, what's he hit Eugene 3 times and basically knocks him out, and he's going to hit him again, and she stands in front of him and she puts her hand on her gun. Right? I mean, that's some spine right there to stand up to him, yeah. And he accepts it, like you said. She's kind of that calming force on him. So she gained a lot in my eyes in this episode, and that's why
I agree with you. I just want to interject that I agree with you on that line being telltale, because and it was not a very classy line, and I thought it was made even better when Glenn just was like, didn't need to know that,
right.
But okay, but cool,
right.
But I think it comes back to the title again. Rosita for him is some of his self-help.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's more of his self-medicating. I shouldn't say self-help. It's more like self-medicating, and she's helping to keep him distracted and keep him not thinking about, what's happened to his family. So, as opposed to having genuine feelings for her.
Right. I like the fact that, again, you got to the end of the episode, and I'm watching this whole thing with Eugene, and I'm just thinking to myself, there's no way you can keep the storyline going for 3 more episodes to the halfway point. You can't. This guy is so full of crap, and they were so heavy throughout the episode, basically just like wink, not
Right.
nudge, that he's full of crap. You mentioned Maggie with sitting next to him telling the Sansa story,
Right.
and what's the thing that she says when she sits down next to him as he's reading H.G. Wells's The Shape of Things to Come? She says, I get it. I get the whole thing about the mullet. It shows that you're not the person people think you are. And that was
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
moment, and there were several other ones where it was just
That whole
so-
conversation was filled with foreshadowing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And as I'm watching it, I just said, you guys can't keep this up for a couple more episodes. And then at the end, as I'm watching, as I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, Glenn's going to get his head kicked in by Abraham. And then when Eugene spills the beans right there, I was shocked. I was like, holy cow. Because we've seen, they just blow through storylines this season.
Yeah, they really are.
Which I think is great, because no need to belabor the point or just beat a dead horse. And it was a big surprise at the end for me. So I actually like that. I like now as we said at the beginning, DC's in flux. Are they going to be going to DC? We know Alexandria has walls, right? So
Right.
Alexandria's probably, they're going to hit Alexandria before they hit DC. So but given where they are, they haven't traveled that much farther outside of Atlanta, and we're going to kick the next episode off to Daryl and Carol at Slabtown. They're not going to get there by the halfway point, but still. So I think that the whole terminating the DC thing was cool. The prepper stuff, like you said, I thought that was great every time. And they've really done more of that this season than they've done in any other season. We're getting to see, and I think that's cool to see. It's
Absolutely.
For 4 seasons, it's been kind of just taken for granted that, they're going to survive somehow. Well, now we get to see the machinations behind it and how they pull that off. I don't have it as my ugly, although it probably could have. Well, I'll get to that in a second. Before that, I want to mention the other character was Tara. Awkward fist bumps aside, I like how she's trying to, and I don't see her so much as overly trying to fit into the group as kind of making up for her past or past association. But
Right.
I like how she's becoming more like Rosita. She's becoming more of a voice in the group. Like, she was the one who came up with the idea that, after they crashed the bus, okay, maybe we should go bikes next time,
Yeah. Bikes don't burn.
Yeah, bikes don't burn. And I like the little thing when she catches Eugene, being a voyeur, and then when he walks away and she kind of gives a little look over as well, I like what they're doing with her, and she's, so I kind of liked her this episode. But the other good that I like was, holy cow, the herd. When they come over and they're like, "What's that smell?" and you're like, "Oh, nothing good can come from this." And then when they come over the rise, and you just see thousands of them.
It's like a ranch of them.
Oh my lord! Yeah, that was very cool. So those were my goods of the.
I think the best herd that the show has done though so far was back in season 4. In the first half of season 4, when they go to that medical school or that veterinarian school.
Oh yeah,
that was the best herd so far. That was unbelievable when they get stuck in the car there. So then, what was your question?
I didn't have one. I was just.
Yeah, this getting old really sucks. Really sucks. And then these late night podcasts are like, oh my god, talk about adding fuel to the fire.
I know, it's like it's 10 to 11. It's like 3 hours past your bedtime, right?
My brain shuts down at around 8:30.
All right, what are your bads?
My bads. It was getting hard for me to believe that Maggie and Glenn would keep following this asshole. And when I say that, I mean I really kind of mean both of them. Because Abraham's just becoming, was just clearly becoming a loose cannon. He kind of has been since they found him, but and then Eugene is just talking smack out his ass. You know what I mean? Like, what is it Glenn says to him at one point? He says he goes on to one of his speeches, and I think it's in the bus, and Glenn just is staring at him, and he stops.
When
he stops and he goes, "What's with the hair?"
But it was even before that when he says he asked him a question and he goes, "Oh, that," and Eugene said, "Oh, that's classified," and Glenn immediately calls him out. I was like, aren't we past that at this point?
Yeah. So that was getting hard, for me to believe. So in that, I was not as excited to see them give up the Eugene surprise so quickly as you were, but I do think that one of the pluses of that is that I don't have to keep believing that Maggie and Glenn would keep going along with this craziness.
Right.
So that I think maybe the writers were thinking that. I think they were probably thinking, it's getting to a point where it's just not going to be believable that these characters that we've got, that we've written, before as being pretty smart, pretty intelligent people are going to keep, going along with this stuff. So I thought Eugene's running from the zombies in the Abraham backstory. Oh my God.
How painful was that?
Oh, that was as painful as it gets.
And doesn't he say, I think they're getting faster?
Yeah. Faster.
Dude, you're running like a weeble to begin with. I mean, how?
Weebles wobble, but they don't get bitten. But, geez, yeah, that was a train wreck. Maggie is still not mentioned her sister.
Oh, my Lord. Yes.
Every freaking now it's become a joke.
It totally is.
Now it's like I'm hoping she doesn't.
Exactly.
They're gonna have to explain that. She's gonna have to say something because, well, I don't know. Maybe Beth doesn't make it. Who knows?
Well, hold on. Just to expand on that. So that whole scene when they were sitting there, it was funny because I was rooting against her when she's laying there with Carl and she's thinking about, she feels kind of guilty about leaving Rick and company, and then she's like, well, maybe they're behind us, and she's not even talking about Rick and everybody else.
With Carl? Who's laying with Carl? You mean Glenn?
Did I say Carl?
You said Carl.
My therapist said I have a field day with that one.
There's a good one.
Yeah. No, that's not what I meant. I meant Glenn. Anyway,
Maggie's a good one.
Okay, so where was I? So when she's laying with Glenn and she says, maybe they're behind us. I thought she was talking about Rick and group, and no, she was talking about Daryl and Carol. Maybe they were in the car behind them. And I was like, please don't mention Beth. Don't mention Beth. Please don't mention. And she doesn't mention Beth.
Why would she be thinking this? She doesn't know that they took off in a car.
She mentions Daryl and Carol.
No, I think she mentioned that I think what she was saying is that Daryl and Carol have probably gotten back together with Rick and they're probably on their way. They're probably right behind us. That's what she's saying. Nobody knows that they got in a car and took off. Nobody knows that. Not until Daryl comes out of those woods and we haven't found out what happens there.
You're right, but I swear she brought up.
Yeah, I think she just says that Daryl and Carol are probably back with Rick now and they're all together right behind us. That's what she's saying.
Yeah, but without Beth.
But without Beth, right? I had as a bad, again, nothing ever goes well when anyone gets in a car in The Walking Dead, but we already talked about that. I'm still not clear on how far everything is from everybody. When they crashed, they said they're only 15 miles away from where they were. Mm-hmm. But then by the time the episode ends and they're on foot, basically, I guess they got the fire truck going for a little while. It was kind of implied that they're like beyond the point of being able to turn around. So I don't know.
I just remember thinking when they found the fire truck, I just remember thinking, oh great, Abraham can't possibly flip this thing.
Wrong. Ding! How did he flip? I guess he went up the bumper of another car, right?
The bus, yeah.
Yeah,
but did you see how But I had to laugh because at the beginning of the episode when they show previously on Walking Dead, and they show Abraham coming out. We found a short bus out back. Yes, you did, brother.
Yes, you did. And that was the appropriate bus for you as a driver.
Exactly.
Well, it doesn't help that he's got glass in his gas tank.
You, Rosita, Eugene, Carl, and Maggie. Carl. I did it again. Glenn and Maggie on the short bus.
Carl.
Yes.
Admit, you miss Carl.
Oh, my gosh.
I thought the fire hose was a bit of a joke. It was like comical, and I just didn't find it believable. Why would there still be all that water, and what would be generating the pressure? Doesn't the truck have to be going in order to generate the pressure on that? Plus, I know they're rotting the zombies and everything else, and they do blow a couple heads off, which was kind of cool with that. But then when he gets done, they're all lying on the ground, and they're just lying there. The ones with heads are not moving. It's like that didn't make any sense to me. I mean,
There was
you know what I
something
mean?
else. There was something else too with the zombies that acting a little unzombie like, which was when the bus flips on its side, right? And Abraham says, and Glenn or one of the two says, "All right, we're gonna rush it," and then everybody follows us out. You see what happened? They kicked the door back. What did the zombies do? The zombies stepped back and let
Well, I
them
think
come
it was
out.
supposed to. I think that's what happened, but I think it was supposed to look like he kicked the door and it flew open and knocked them back.
Yeah, but it
But
didn't because
no,
yeah,
they had to step. Well, that's because they didn't get smashed by the door. The
right.
actors.
Well, right.
Yeah, I liked that sequence. I have to say. I mean, it was it was a little predictable. They passed the zombies. The car's gonna like die or something, and of course, not only does it die, it flips. But it was cool that it flips, it crashes. They're all like beat up inside, and then boom, they got zombies on top of them, and they got to fight their way through it. And I thought that was a cool scene.
Right, and it shows that they can take handle themselves, take care of themselves. But again, that funny thing, a little bit of humor, which I don't know if it was just a little too heavy or if it was enough. I don't know. It just came across when it first happened. It was a little too funny, a little too Keystone copy, where it was okay. Well, we'll just get everything out of the bus, and then they look over, and then the bus, it flows up. Okay, we won't forget that. So
Yeah, that was pretty funny. But what I do like is about also what I also liked about that scene was that it's becoming clear that these people and Abraham even says it to Glenn in one sequence, which was actually some good dialogue between the two of them about either you find people who are good survivors and you help them.
mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm doing this right, or you find people that are good killers and you have to kill them or something like that. But it was just about there's this kind of like you're either a super hardened at this point if you're still alive, you're a ruthless hardened survivor who can kill and you want to be with those kind of people, or you're a crazy ruthless killer and you've got to kill those people.
Yeah.
So the threat is still clearly, the main threat is the human, but the zombies still pose a threat when they're in mass and when you are caught in a unanticipated situation.
Right.
He passes those zombies in the truck. There's no threat there. As soon as they have a crash and they're upside down and those zombies aren't on top of them, now they're a threat.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's cool that that's still there. You don't feel like two zombies themselves are very threatening, but they still can be dangerous. What was your ugly?
Well, hold on. I gotta get to my bad.
Oh, you didn't do your goods?
No, I did my goods. I haven't done my bads.
Oh, your bad. Sorry, my bad. My bad, not letting you do your bads.
So my bads are. I know how to save AMC some money, some production money. Not that they have to, because I'm sure they're probably rolling in advertising money. But I know how to save them some cash for the next 3 episodes. Okay, what you do is go out, get cardboard cutouts of Maggie and Glenn, and tell those actors to just take the next 3 episodes off. Don't pay them. Just put the cardboard cutouts in there, because you are going to achieve the same amount. They added nothing to this episode. They haven't added anything to any of this.
Well, what about the scene with Maggie and Eugene that we were just talking about? We both thought that was a good scene.
Yeah, where she's channeling Herschel. Yeah, that was a nice scene and all. Whatever. Okay. It's you take them. The one thing about storytelling is if you can take an element out of the story and not significantly change the story, that element was superficial and didn't belong there. You could pull Glenn and Maggie out. I have the same question when I sit there watching them on the bus. You would think that Maggie could endear herself to me by, looking out the window and Glenn saying, "What are you thinking about? Oh, I hope Beth is okay," or I wonder about, did we make the right decision? No, they're just kind of like da 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 and sharing mullet jokes and talking about whatever.
Well, they had the one pillow talk scene.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, and to make your point, I don't remember what they talked about. So it must not have been too big of a deal.
It was something about her enjoying.
It's gonna be great down the road.
Yeah, like them being on vacation or something,
right.
and they
It's
kind
all
of
gonna
enjoying
work out.
whatever. I agree about the whole mullets. It seemed to me like there was too much perseverating about the whole mullet thing. And I get in the beginning on the bus, it's a conversation, something to talk about. But it just seemed to be like we kept going back to the well on that. But the biggest issue I had with this whole episode was the truncation of Abraham's backstory. Okay, we see him beating and if you look in the background, you see that he's beaten 3 other guys. He's basically beaten 4 guys to death with a soup can, right? And first of all, given this zombie apocalypse and given how it was presented, I don't buy that his wife and kid is going to grab the kids and say, "Don't follow us," and disappear, away from Abraham. Yes, Abraham did come across as super zealous. Yes, he had anger management issues. I get all that. But I also think that and I just pulled the trade out. I think it's issue 57 or is it 58 where Abraham explains what his backstory is, and they didn't put it in there. So I'm actually going to just read it because it sheds some light on. If you watch this episode, it basically looks like he and his family were in a store and they were fighting over, it could be surmised that they had fought over a can of soup or a can of something, and he beats these guys for that can, therefore to provide for his family. And I totally get it. When you would look at it in that context, totally makes sense that his wife's like, "Oh my God, what are you willing to do to provide for us? I'm afraid of you." Okay. Except that in the comic, Abraham's backstory is different. And this is him talking to Rick, where he says, at first, when it all started, a group of survivors formed locals. We banded together for security. Friends, neighbors. And then the next panel, he says, "They raped my wife and daughter." Wife and I had split, but I lived close by. First thing I did was find them. Hell with whatever the TV was telling me to do. She was with good people. We knew them, most of them at least. We worked together for a long time. We holed up in a grocery store. Seemed like an easy enough place to defend and was loaded with supplies. Me and a few others went on a weapons run. I had access to the local depot, so we set out to get whatever we could carry. Some people, it was like a switch went off in them. One day they were nice, law-abiding folks. The next, they were animals. And basically the gist of it is he came back, found out that his wife and kids had been raped, and he went nuts, and he took care of things. That in context, and I wonder if maybe they didn't put that in there because we've had so much rape and that kind of stuff in recent weeks that it was like, all right, let's not go back to that well again. And to that end, I can understand. But the problem is I think it was a detriment to Abraham's character. And he would look less of a nutcase than he did if you had a better explanation of what happened, in his past. So
I totally agree with you. It to me, that was it was my ugly for the episode, and it was a bad ugly. The first time in a long time they've had a bad ugly, but I just think they didn't do justice to that, and that was the linchpin for the entire episode.
Yeah,
because that was what was going on in the background in Abraham's character that was causing him to blindly follow this guy, even though some instincts in him, I'm sure, were saying he's nuts and this can't be possible. And, doing these crazy things and getting crazier and crazier and crazier as they got closer and closer to DC. So, yeah, I agree. Cudlitz, in fact, was on Talking Dead afterwards. And they asked him about that scene and everything, and he explained just what you said, which is what the comic said. He described that the person Abraham killed didn't simply try to steal a can of food. He was one of a group of people that were once Abraham's friends and neighbors and had raped his wife and his kids while Abraham was on a supply run. But like you said, we didn't get any of that.
right.
And so then the kids and the wife's reaction just seems bizarre.
Yeah.
I mean, he's come back. He's protected them. He didn't really protect them. But he he killed the people who did that. So that's not going to happen to them again. He's, in a sense, trying to protect them and ensure their future safety. Why would they run away?
Right.
So but some people I've read online were theorizing that, well, maybe he was, because he didn't say, again, we didn't get that they were divorced or separated. He does say that in the comic.
Right.
Maybe he was abusive, as a person or something. And so then they were already afraid of him. And then when they say, but again, we didn't get any of that. We have to try and assume or whatever.
Right,
and it just, that, and to me, it was also the way it was told. Plus, we didn't get any connection with that family. So they meant nothing to us.
Right.
The wife and the kids, I can understand the kids maybe, but even the wife didn't even have a line. She didn't even say one line. Her line was written on a note left for him. Don't follow us, don't try to find us. We needed to, they were trying to do, it seemed to me, they were trying to do what they did in the season finale. I think it was the season finale, which one that A was. When
last season 4, right?
Last season 4, right? When it starts off, the camera comes in and we see Rick sitting next to the truck, covered in blood, shaking by himself, totally like, holy shit. It was, it was like Breaking Bad, right? Breaking Bad, you see this unbelievable scene, and then you're like, oh my God, how did we get to that point? And then you find out through the story. That's what they were trying to do with this. Since you get Abraham starts off pounding this guy's face in, and he's got the can and he's covered in blood and he's a mess, and you're like, holy cow, this guy's completely gone bananas. What caused this?
Right.
And we never get that.
Right.
We never get that. They should have flashed further back, had us meet the wife, see their relationship, meet the kids, see that he goes out on a run. We don't have to see the actual attack. I agree with you. I think that's probably what the logic was, that they were probably trying to avoid that. But by doing that, they left it completely open-ended, and I think destroyed the believability of the family's reaction.
Yeah, they didn't do. Yeah, and they just didn't do the Abraham's character any justice at all.
No.
I thought it was kind of laughable at the end where when he comes across their bodies that have been attacked and left to they're dead. He puts a gun in his mouth, and then he looks over and he sees the Weeble coming towards him, out walking the walkers, and he goes and he kills them all, and then turns around and walks away, and then Eugene says, I've got a mission, and then all of a sudden it was like that point in Scooby-Doo, and Scooby's like, mission, right. What? And I liked. He was a military guy that I liked because he was a military guy, but in these, especially in these zombie movies, head on over to Zombie Nation and Sci-Fi Channel, for instance, these movies, these shows, this paradigm just cartoons up military personnel so much, and Abraham's cartoonishness, I think, is more a reflection of his, personality, of himself, not a factor of him being in the military. And I was like, for once, all right, we got a military guy I actually kind of like, and he's about the mission, and there's this, and this. But yet, like you had mentioned before, him so blindly following Eugene just kind of, it just kind of spat in the face of the logic that.
Well, I think it comes back to what we were just talking about, that we both felt strongly about, that linchpin, the reason for that, the motivation for that, to make that believable, was what happened with his family and the relationship with his family, and the loss, and we just had no emotional believability to that based on the way that it was handled.
Right.
And so it becomes even harder to believe that he would turn around and do that, especially after having just put a gun in his mouth.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, that was a quick downshift. That was a quick downshift from goodbye world to what?
Right.
DC.
What? Yeah, exactly.
So, all right. So what's your ugly?
That was it. My ugly was that.
Oh, right. You said that.
Yeah. Yeah.
My ugly, I'm actually, and I see your point with the, and I didn't understand the physics behind it either, and I thought the fire engine had to be running too. But my ugly is going to be a good ugly when just because I just thought it was cool. I've not seen zombies dispatched, a riot after an LA Lakers game. So
Yeah, I'll give it credit for that. I agree.
And all I could think of when I saw that scene as I'm watching it, all I could think of was like, oh, I can't wait to see what this week's tribute piece by Kirk is going to be.
I don't think the hose is going to make it.
What?
What?
There better be a version B. If you want to see Kirk do an alternate version of this, I might set up a poll on Facebook, see how many people want an alternate
I'll be lucky if I can get this week's done with everything else. I've had a really busy week. I haven't even started that yet. Maybe the hose will have to be in it. But no, I agree with you, at least in the sense of I appreciate that the show tries on a really regular basis to do something creative in terms of how to deal with the zombies. Or dispatch zombies, and I respect that, and sometimes they're going to miss and sometimes they're going to hit, like the parachute guy falling through the ceilings and the zombies through the rotted ceilings exploding. That was freaking awesome. They're always trying to push the limits. So sometimes they're not going to nail it for me, but they hit it for a lot of people. A lot of people love that scene.
Yeah. So Gary Dombrowski wrote in, and he said his comment on this episode was, "I thought Rain Man Goes to Washington was a great title for tonight's episode."
I love that.
Later on, I decided to change it to Car Talk. Is it me, or does Abraham's group have crap luck with vehicles? Eugene might be smart, but does not have an ounce of common sense. I agree with this, what he's about to say right here. It's not smart to tell people you lied to, quote, "I'm smarter than you." It is probably safe to say that anger management classes, if taken, did not work for Abraham. His family seemed pretty freaked out after he took out all those guys with a soup can. Well, we've already discussed the last two sentences there, but that's actually a good point, and I have it in my notes I thought of it too, that right on the heels of, I lied, I've been BSing you guys this entire time. Oh, and by the way, I'm still smarter than all of you. Really?
And you know what? The worst, though, is he says it right to Abraham.
Yeah.
I mean, it's to the rest of them, they're like, oh, who gives a shit? But to Abraham, to tell him that was freaking, that was like the dumbest thing he could have ever done.
Dude, quickest way to get your
ass
kicked
kicked.
in.
Did you have a character of the week?
I just want to read one more. I want to read Leslie Cox's.
Okay. Yeah, we have Leslie Cox, and then I'll read Laura's.
And Laura, thank you very much for reminding us how to pronounce your name. She said it's like larva, but without the V. So now that goes through my head every single time I'm about to mention her. Anyway, so Leslie Cox says, "I thought it was an interesting episode. It seemed to me that we were being told a couple of important things in this one. Firstly, that although he's a terrible liar, Eugene is actually a clever man. He did the fire starting in the bookshop, sorted out Abraham's hand with a thread from the spines of the book, and the water hose was very clever. It was a bit of a waste of water, I guess, but it seemed to me that he saved lives there."
Hey, let me interrupt for a minute. I believe that the getting of the thread was Rosita.
Yeah,
or Abraham. I'm not positive.
I thought it was Rosita too.
And what was it that Eugene did? I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
To start the fire, he took a battery and tinfoil. Is that what it was?
Yeah, and you create a connection with a piece of paper in between them, and then that'll start a fire.
Awesome.
Kirk's gonna practice when we get done here. Watch, he'll light his shirt on fire.
Burn our house down.
Leslie continues, "I think we're also being given some important information about Abraham. I think we're being led to think that he has PTSD from his time in combat prior to the outbreak. It seems that he finally cracked when he lost his family. I also think that they were afraid of him, possibly because he'd been having temper problems prior to the outbreak. At the point when he first meets Eugene, he's at the point of suicide. Eugene and his mission give him a reason to live. He needed the mission to channel his thoughts and give him something to live for," which we've talked about. And books are important to the storyline. Firstly, they're seen burning books, and then later, Eugene is seen to be reading The Shape of Things to Come by H.G. Wells, which basically is a book about the rise and fall of civilization. Maybe. Or it could just be, I agree with you, Leslie. Of course I agree with you. That's what the book's about. But I also thought that maybe just the title itself was an omen of the story. She continues. She says, whilst Eugene doesn't know how to cure the disease, but maybe he does know how to organize the people who are left to ensure the best shot they have at survival. That would be an interesting twist, a way to, clearly we know how the comic book plays out, but for the show, that would be an interesting way to see Eugene redeem himself. We've seen Tara redeem herself.
No, absolutely. I think, he's not a scientist. He doesn't have a cure, but he's a smart guy.
Yeah.
And hopefully they'll see that.
If he can rein in the douchiness and be...
and the other question is, can he get this jawbone out of his brain sack that Abraham shoved it through?
Yeah,
that's going to be the real big question.
And that's what she
when
says.
When he goes down, that second, it's like a sack of freaking potatoes. Boom, face first.
And that's what what she closes with. She says, "Of course, we don't know whether Eugene is alive after that beating or what the group will do." Interesting stuff. So.
Great letter, Leslie. Thank you very much.
Oh, and she mentioned books. Something behind Eugene when he was standing there and he was telling Tara how he had put glass in the fuel line. There were 3-4 copies of the book called "We All Fall Down," and they were all on the shelf behind him. They're prominent. You can see their spines. We all watch this show and other shows trying to look for the Easter eggs. Well, "We All Fall Down" is a book by Nick Sheff. It's actually an addiction memoir. He wrote one, and I think it came out in 2013, because he wrote one prior to that called Tweak, and it was his first like memoir about addiction. I believe he was addicted to something like meth or crack or something hardcore, and I'm not sure if he's the one whose dad also wrote like a version from like the parents' side having to deal with it. Anyway, Nick Sheff wrote both of them, like I said, addiction memoirs that are they've been very well received. It's supposed to be really good books. So I just thought it was interesting that we saw those so prominently on the shelf behind Eugene.
Well, that is interesting, and the fact that I I'm sure others did too, but I kind of picked up there was a little bit of a not addiction issue, but the self-help applying to this kind of, how do you deal with, your life when you're doing something that's avoiding other things and it's causing problems. When you're avoiding your pain, when you're avoiding your issues, when you're not confronting those things, it just creates a mess for your life and all the people around you as well.
And I just realized that my Alzheimer's moment kicked in, because when Tara's talking to Eugene, the camera's on the side of them and you see them. Tara's to the right of the screen, he's to the left. If you look in the background, there are 2 bookshelves. And I think Eugene's side said religion and spirituality, defining what books are on that.
Right,
and and there's something that was on Tara's side. So there was a label on one side and there was a label on the other.
Interesting. I wonder what that other label was.
Yeah, if someone can check that out and let us know what it is, because like I said, I'm usually not real smart about getting the subtleties of the meaning behind it, because it didn't clearly jump off the page why one. It could just be complete coincidence also, but I didn't understand why one would line up with one or the other. So
right,
but
no, I'm sure it wasn't a coincidence. I think they go to great lengths to do that stuff. Okay, Laura Will Swink wrote in, and she said, after hearing Kirk's point of view on last week's episode and a second watching, I'm sure it had a lot more to do with the second watching, I'm liking it more than I initially did. So hopefully that will also help me like this week's episode a little bit more too. However, the problem is that I like Beth, and though I didn't love her episode, it followed the storyline of a character I care about, but I don't have that predisposition with Abe and crew. I've not liked them since they joined the show, because for a show that, aside from the zombies, seems grounded in reality, they feel to me like cosplaying characters of survivors from some B-rate zombie movie. I know they are supposed to be very close to the comic book characters, but I felt that they've been a distraction to the show since they arrived. I think we talked a little bit about that ourselves, with the dialogue issues, but I think a lot of people feel that way. I've warmed to Eugene because he's a bit of a buffoon, and I even like Rosita now that she's lost the hottie pants and giant hoop earrings. I miss the hottie pants.
I do too.
But I still can't understand Abe. Beyond the ridiculously comical Kool-Aid red hair and biker stash, he comes off as a bit of an idiot for his blind faithfulness to Eugene, who I never believed from the jump, and every sentence out of his mouth has to be a zinger, which tends to get annoying. This episode just seems slow, but without the nervous tension of last week's episode, and everything that happened felt like padding for the Abraham backstory. Glenn and Maggie literally disappear into the background. I believe that you would echo those sentiments,
That's right?
right? Yep. Kind of maybe like cutout standees. And the much anticipated firehouse scene felt forced and unnecessary. One last thing. I got to disagree with Jeff about when he said that Beth
What?
didn't do
You're off the Christmas list.
she didn't do anything to Gorman in the lollipop scene. I got to say, the first time I got ass grabbed as a polite and sheltered young 19-year-old like Beth, I was so shocked that anyone would be so crude that I frankly stood in stunned disbelief with no idea what to do or say. But just like Beth, you learn quickly, and the next time you have that kind of encounter, you're pretty quick to respond. Though I'll say I never bashed anyone with a lollipop jar and tag team killed them with a walker. Go Beth. Great cast, guys. Keep them coming. Laura.
Yeah, I guess that's a valid point. I guess there's kind of like a stunned moment of almost an out of body experience when, you know, there's this stranger shoving a lollipop in your mouth and you just got to be kind of like, is this really happening? All right.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And also, you know, at first she's not sure what's going on at this place, you know, and she's, I think, to the other letter we read earlier, you know, she's kind of like, well, maybe this is going to be a safe place for me to kind of get back on my feet and figure out what to do. And it's a hospital, and they got security people, and there's a doctor, and they're feeding me, and they took care of me. You know, maybe I can hang here for a while and make this work. And then it just kind of starts getting weirder and weirder. And then when that happens, I think, yeah, it just kind of catches her off guard.
Yeah.
But she's anticipating it next time, like Laura said, you know, and boom, lollipop jar upside the head.
Yeah. All right. What was your kill of the week?
Kill of the week. There was a scene. I think it was when the zombies start pouring out of the firehouse after the tire comes out. And they're fighting off a whole bunch of them just before Eugene gets on the water cannon of death, and I think Abraham is using the butt of his gun.
Yeah.
And he's got this one zombie who's down. I think he's down on a knee. I'm not sure. And he's just taken the head of the zombie, and it's popping and cracking open like a pumpkin shell.
Yeah.
And that was pretty wild.
That was my first one, and then Eugene Eugene opened up from up top, and that just the way it was. Just, like, again, we've seen just these walkers they've been walking around for too long, and they're decrepit and decapitated. What's a fire hose? 125 psi coming out and just, you know.
You're asking me?
Yeah.
I don't even know what psi is. I assume it means something to do with the force of the water, right?
Yes, when the water comes out the water end of the hose. So who was your character of the week?
You know, it's got to be the team Abraham, the whole group, Rosita, Abraham, and Eugene. You know, because they really did finally. You know, even though we've got issues with the way that Abraham's backstory was told, we really got to see them developed in a way that we hadn't seen. And I think, you know, since they've joined the team or the show, they really haven't had any kind of backstory or explanation or character development.
So in other words, you're saying that basically since Glenn and Maggie added nothing to the show, you're going to go with everybody on the episode.
Well, there's Tara too.
Oh, that's right. I'm gonna go with Rosita. I liked her this episode. I liked the way she stood up, and I liked that she had more than just a couple words and gold hoop earrings to prance around in. So that's what I'm gonna go with.
Yeah, I thought she was fantastic, and I like her character. Her character seems almost calm in this chaos, and she's tough, but yet not mean in any way. She's just kind of very, like you said, when it push came to shove, she put her hand on the gun, was like, she's able to draw the line, but at the same time, she also, is pretty easygoing.
Hey, we're 5 episodes in, and she's already shown more character depth than Maggie. So that's right, everybody. I'm on the Maggie hate.
You are
wagon.
a Maggie hater. You gotta get a T-shirt, Maggie hater.
All right. So, like we said, do you got anything else to add?
No, I don't think so.
So, like we said, there are 3 episodes left: the 16th, the 23rd, and the 30th. Right after Thanksgiving, we've got next week's is called Consumed.
Let's talk about the preview for that a little bit. If people haven't seen it, don't want spoilers, then definitely jump ahead or turn off at this point. But did you watch it?
Yeah, of course.
Did you? Maybe the preview didn't have it. Did you see the extended cut scene or the extended scene on Talking Dead?
No.
There's a sequence where Daryl walks out of what looks like part of Slabtown, and he's holding a body that's in a sheet.
That was on the regular.
Oh, that was in the regular one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like a little body. It's a little
smaller body,
yeah.
right? And then throws it in the fire, and then Carol comes out and she thanks him for doing that for her. And of course, everyone's speculating, who's the body? Is that Beth? And I don't think in any way is that Beth. No way is that Beth. Mm-mm. But my theory is that we're going to get a whole episode of Carol and Daryl that's going to end with whatever happened to Carol to have her going into the hospital.
Oh, so you
you
think this is leading up to that?
I don't think we're going to get any answers from that episode. From that episode where we see Carol come in on the gurney, we're going to get the story that takes place from where they jump in the car, chase them, follow them, and some other stuff happens to them, and then whatever happens to Carol that causes her to go into the hospital is where that's going to end, I think. So then I don't know where we're going to pick up from there. My guess would be back to Rick's team by that point. But I'm still hoping, although my instincts are not my instincts, but my better judgment says that it's probably not going to be the case. But I'm still hoping that her going into the hospital in Slabtown is a plan that they made up to buy time and to get protection, to get somebody in to help Beth and escape, and to send Daryl back to get the team and bring him back, and kind of like have a person on the inside. But my everything I'm hearing and seeing seems to say that that's probably not the case.
Well, I'm looking at the quick 1-sentence summary on IMDb for the next 3 episodes, and there might be some validity to what you say.
Oh, awesome! That would be great. Because I heard or read a spoiler alert for anybody, that there was a scene being shot. It was many months back. People were describing a scene with Carol where she gets hit by a car. And I'm wondering if that's what's going to happen in this episode, and then Daryl escapes or whatever, but she gets taken into the hospital. But I hope it's not. I hope it's that they do a plan, because I think that would be freaking so cool.
All right, so those of you listening to us, write into Facebook, send us an email at biterspodcast@gmail.com, and let us know what you think the last 3 episodes. I'll tell you what the titles of the last 3 episodes are. So the next one is called Consumed. November 23rd is called Crossed, and then November 30th is Coda. Now Kirk doesn't know what Coda is, so he'll have to look that one up. But if you let us know what you think what your ideas.
Does it have anything to do with PSI? Is it Coda PSI? PSI Coda?
Oh my gosh, and then we're off until the 8th of February, 2015.
What does Coda mean, dude? What does Coda mean?
How do you keep an idiot in suspense?
You do a podcast with him.
All right, on that note...
You mother-effer, you aren't going to tell me what Coda means.
No, I'm not.
You douche. All right, be that way. That's fine. All right, what's the actual Facebook address? It's Facebook/...
Biters.
Biters?
Yep.
Okay.
And be sure to, we love you guys writing in. We seem to be getting more and more write-ins, which is great. And like
Awesome.
I said, we try to, read them all online and respond to them. Read them all on the podcast and respond to them online. And, check out more of Southgate Media's podcasts
really,
as well.
And some of what people are writing in has been really great and really insightful and really stuff we hadn't thought of, and some great observations. So we really, it really makes the show richer, and we really enjoy adding, all your people's points of view to the discussion.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's unfortunate that I don't agree with anybody who disagrees with me, but everybody can.
That's just you, man. That's Coda and PSI right there, man.
If you're a fan of the Flash, come download Fast Talkers on iTunes and Southgate Media Group, where my friend Scott Malks and we both talk about the Flash TV show. We also talk about American Horror Story on Disturbed, and check out Southgate Media Group's webpage, where there are dozens of other shows. And
Good stuff. Great shows.
And, so when Walking Dead ends in 3 weeks, Kirk and I we're going to try to be better than we were last off season, and try to keep this podcast going, because we want to stay in Kathy's ear holes. So write in about what things you want us to talk about. We heard one about Hemlock Grove. If there's a zombie movie, or a book you want us to review,
That's a
write
good
in,
idea.
let us know.
Definitely let us know. Give us suggestions. And be sure to follow us on Twitter at jmarzik and at BatmanKM. Be sure to live tweet us on Sunday nights when we're live tweet with us on Sunday night for the show. And
which is at Biters Podcast.
At Biters Podcast. And check out the zgirl.org for all your comic goodness of Z-Girl and the Four Tigers, which is written by Jeff and illustrated by me. And also I got the art tributes to the show I've been doing. This week was going to be tough because I'm running out of time, but hopefully you guys are checking those out. We try and post them up on Facebook as well. I appreciate all the nice comments people make about them, and appreciate all that.
Yeah, you've gotten a lot of great comments over the past.
Yeah, it's been really great. I was talking with somebody today about the key is the being prolific. You know what I mean? It's getting it out every week.
Yeah.
It's I think it's really important in terms of getting the exposure to it and having people see it.
All right.
It means a lot that everybody likes it. That's great. Okay, everybody, thanks so much for tuning in, and we will check you next week.
Yeah. All right, everybody, take care.
Peace.